and I think she has some years left at Cambridge. So
both crews get ready.
Do trialing, trial again, and make the step, take the step to reach the blue boat.
So as you can see now, as the ISIS Goldie race gets set to start in the next couple of minutes or so, the 58th running of that race, and we'll roll with this split screen so we can bring you both races at the start of the men's race and at the start of the women's race. And Josh, just looking ahead to this ISIS Goldie race, you were saying just before we came on air, you reckon this will be one of the closest races, men's reserve races, we've had for a while?
You can quote me on. Well, I will get quoted on this, but I think so. Yeah, I think both crews are looking really good. They've had strong results in fixtures. They've had strong results in fixtures, but equally they've also had some sort of less good results in fixtures. But those when you have those results where you turn up and you get beaten badly, those are the ones that make you go, right, okay, we really need to turn this around, and that can really that can change the course of your whole campaign with the boat races. I really think that these crews will go toe to toe, sort of down the entire course, or at least I hope so.
Yeah, certainly. Apologies about the technical error that we're just having on screen at the moment. We will pick up those pictures as soon as we can, but at the moment when we left it, it was Cambridge University, the Blondie crew out in front, comfortably leading their opponents from Osiris, representing Oxford University in that 48th running of the women's reserve race. And we are still just moments away from the ISIS Goldie race, the men's reserve race getting underway. And when we last left them, Josh, they are being lined up by umpire Claire Harvey, who previously represented Cambridge University, assisted by Oxford University's Judith Packer. And I think by the roar that we can hear just outside of our commentary position in Putney, it sounds like that race is starting to get underway. What's that like, Josh, off the start? Because obviously you were part of this ISIS crew last year.
It's like nothing else. Like, you look to your left, you're on the stake boat, and you look to your left, there's just a wall of people. You look to your right, there's more crowds of people. You look to Putney Bridge and it's covered in people. And as soon as the umpire's red flag goes down and the attention go comes, just this wall of noise hits you. It's so loud, and then you've got the crew. You can hear the crew next to you. You can hear your own cocks. There's just so much going on at the start. There's a really big adrenaline rush.
And Eleanor, are you just able to talk us through some of these ISIS Goldie crews and some of these athletes that we've got taking part in today's men's reserve race?
Yeah, Fergus. I'm actually really excited to see this race if the feed is back on soon. We've got quite a few returners in both boats. Ollie Boyne coxing Goldie for the third time in a row, also men's president of Cambridge this year, and he's facing off Louis, who has also coxed ISIS last year, and both of them have had some victories in their back, so both of them wanted to take the trophy again. What do you think?
Both of them facing off again on the tideway. Both of them not wanting to lose. You mentioned that Ollie was the CUBC president.
Yeah.
How do you feel he sort of will have dealt not getting the blueboat seat for this year in his year as president?
I think it's always hard because you are the image of your club, but you don't get the full sort of coverage because you're not in the blue boat. And I think Marty made the same experience last year. I guess.
Yeah, no. Marty last year was phenomenal. The way he dealt with it, was really impressive. He was sad for a little bit, but he turned it around after about a week and went, right, okay, no, we're going to win both races.
Yeah,
and this is what we're going to do. And he led such a strong club culture.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter which boat he was in.
Yeah. No, from what I know from Ollie, I mean, I've rowed with him for the past 2 seasons. I haven't seen him this year. I haven't been part of the squad this year, but yeah, he's a really cool guy. He's great at leading, and I have no doubt that he's doing his best from the Goldie seat. But yeah, I think his eyes right now are on the Goldie win, and Yeah, I'm with him.
And Josh, you mentioned a couple of minutes ago some of those fixture results and how they can have a big impact on these crews. Can you just talk us through some of those fixture results that these reserve races have had, or these reserve crews have had?
So I think the real big one for ISIS was Racing Brooks, where they turned up and Brooks they turned up and Brooks turned up a much more sort of uniform outfit and sort of sent ISIS packing. We've got the feedback. This is good.
Wow, and looks like Goldie has already taken the lead. Oh no, sorry, my eyes were on the Blondie race.
Yes, apologies for the technical errors that we have had, but we are able to bring you both races back on screen. And a reminder, in the bottom right hand side of your screen, it is the Osiris Blondie Women's Reserve race, and up in the corner, the top left corner, it is the ISIS Goldie race. And umpire Claire Harvey of that one is already being tested by this Goldie crew. These crews are so close together at the moment, but at the moment it is that Goldie crew, that crew representing Cambridge University, just have an edge, but they're certainly not in a position to cut across at all.
I think, yeah, Goldie on Middlesex there, they've just got the early advantage, and they made the most of it. Looks like ISIS is maybe edging back on them a little. But yeah, I just love seeing Goldie in gold. I think it looks fantastic.
I disagree. I think it looks awful. But no, I think if ISIS can stay in touch right up until we get to the Harrods Depository, just before, give them a real chance of staying in the race, because that Surrey Bend, there's that sort of 10 minutes throughout the middle of the race where it's your advantage and you know that you've got the advantage. And so if you're with a crew and you're sort of you've got the inside of the bend, you know that you can just keep moving and keep moving and keep moving, and if they're staying with you, they've got to spend a lot of energy to stay with you around the outside of that bend.
That's true, but the only feeling better than being on the inside is being on the outside and taking over. So wow, it's a tight race up until now. It's really exciting. That's always what you want to see in a boat race. Those are the best races.
Yes, we will come back to that race between ISIS and Goldie, but at the moment, in the bottom right hand side of your screen, it is Cambridge University, the Blondie crew, who are out in front. They have dominated this race right from the outset. We had that controversial clashing at the beginning between the two crews, but for another year it will be Blondie in the women's reserve races who are victorious over their opponents from Oxford University. For Osiris, it's back to the drawing board. It is back to Oxford University to try and come up with a solution as to how they're going to conquer Cambridge. But for now, the Thames is painted light blue, as it has been through the lightweight races, through the veteran races. But we can see on screen there, Oxford University, their cox Anna Betteridge has raised their hand in protest. And Josh, presumably this is going to be because of that clashing at the beginning of the race.
Yeah, no, it was a very messy start, and when that sort of thing happens right off the start, it can potentially really affect how a crew gets into their rhythm. And if the crew can't, if a crew, as a result of that crash, is not able to get into that sort of chunky race rhythm that's sort of efficient and sustainable, then they're out of the race from the start.
Certainly. And Ella, have they got any right to protest? Do you think it's going to be upheld?
I think any losing cox will protest at every race. You know, it's the last shot you have at, getting a rerun or getting a disqualification for the other crew, and you'll always take it.
Certainly. So we'll keep you updated as to that appeal that Oxford women, the Osiris crew, have launched. But we are back in the top left-hand corner of your screen between Goldie and ISIS. And Josh, your prediction at the beginning of this race is starting to come to fruition. ISIS now have the bend advantage, and it's a big bend advantage that they've got, and they're starting to creep out in front of this Goldie crew, who have lost that lead that they had initially. Yeah,
it looks as though they've taken a slight lead as they come up to St Paul's. The water seems to be calming down a little bit, and that means the boat will be settled, means they can really start thinking about flowing in that rhythm and trying to sort of take as much as they can out of Goldie. So it'll be really interesting to see how both crews progress as we go around this bend.
Yeah, this next bend is so important for Cambridge. It's vital that they dig in. It is Ollie Boyne, their president, in the coxing seat. He lost out on the top seat to Jasper Parrish, who was of course victorious with Cambridge's women last year. Ollie Boyne back for his third attempt in this Goldie crew, and he was speaking earlier on in the week about just how actually racing in Goldie takes the pressure off this crew. You know, they're still on TV, they still get the moment, but not all of the spotlight is on them. And right now, Eleanor, he will be demanding so much from his boys at the moment and saying to them, we've got to dig in, whilst Oxford have the bend.
Yeah, it looks like they're holding on quite well, or even maybe moving back through Oxford. So, wow, that is exciting. Moving back up on the outside of the bend is one of the best feelings ever. And yeah,
it gives you so much confidence.
Absolutely.
So we've mentioned that Ollie Boyne, their Cox and president, is back for another boat race, another Goldie race, alongside him though racing in last year's race and in 2021 as well. Reef Borick at 5, Cameron McKenzie at 4, both part of previous Goldie units. But what they did in the past doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that ISIS were victorious this year. What matters is the here and now. And at the moment, Josh, Cambridge are giving this Oxford crew a real run for their money and saying to them, do you know what, if you want this bend advantage, you're going to have to work really hard for it.
Yeah, they're not letting ISIS take anything on this bend. And it looks as though ISIS perhaps are getting a little bit flustered by that. The blade work doesn't quite look as clean as it did maybe a minute and a half ago as they were going past St Paul's. And now as we come past the A, that's sort of a straight bit on the bend. And so this will be a real telltale sign of who's actually moving faster.
Certainly, we've got the flag of Claire Harvey back out, just warning this Cambridge crew not to come into this channel of water in between the two crews. They've got to keep their distance apart. We saw earlier on they were coming together. So what we've got at the moment is it's a reasonable gap between the two crews. Perhaps she'd like a little bit more, but she's never going to get that with these two Coxes. Louis Corrigan, Ollie Boyne, Eleanor, they know each other so well, and in Louis Corrigan, he was the one who got the better. It was ISIS who were victorious last year, and that's got to give him certainly a huge amount of confidence at this stage.
Yeah, true. I think Oxford had an incredibly strong men's squad last year, but again, can only defend Ollie here. Ollie won in 2021, and yeah, they've, as you mentioned, Cameron Spears in 6 and Reef are also victorious returners. You've got George Hawkswell in bow seat, who's returning from last year. They'll want it. You know, they'll really want it.
Yeah, they know what both winning and losing in Goldie feels like, and they know which one they want to do today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and hearing from Louis Corrigan, he's described his rowing idol actually as Asa Nethercott, and of course we're 20 years on from that infamous 2003 race that was described as the closest boat race of all time. And if this race continues the way that's going, I think we're going to get a very similar one. And we're obviously 10 years on from the sad passing of Asa Nethercott. So I think it's so powerful to see Louis living up to his idol and very much racing for Asa Nethercott today, and for all of the wonderful stuff that Asa embodied when it comes to the wonderful sport of rowing. But he's got to get his crew up and running again now. It looks like Goldie, Josh, have just started to work their way back up that ISIS crew. Their bow ball looks to be just creeping out in front. It was the bend advantage that ISIS had, but that's starting to run out now.
Bend's actually not over. ISIS have still got a tiny stretch left in which they have the advantage. I think it's maybe 1 or 2 seats. Is that correct? Until the Middlesex bend comes back in.
That's correct. But it's not long. It's going to be another couple of 100 meters before the advantage swings the other way, and Cambridge Goldie are going to start to feel the benefits of having the bend on their side. And it's not long until we get to the bandstand. And when you're in the race, you know that once you get to the bandstand, it's really not long until the finish, and you can really start to push on.
Certainly, and just that crossover point there, we've had these crews come together again. Claire Harvey's flag is back out, and it looks like the crews are getting so close together. And just watching that stroke blade of Sean Hayes, the United States athlete, who is stroking this Goldie crew, it just looks like it might be clipping that of the ISIS crews. And those crews at the moment, Eleanor, they're so close together, and Cambridge now just starting to move out, but it was tense there.
It was, but still not as bad as with the women's race we just saw. But yeah, coming into the bandstand, I think Josh backed me up on this. It's really crazy in a race when you get the massive cheering of the crowds, and that comes in phases. And the bandstand is one of the zones where you can really hear your supporters.
Yeah, no.
It doesn't actually really matter who they're cheering for. You just hear people.
It's just the noise, isn't it?
Yeah. And it fires you on.
Because from the A through to Chiswick Pier and then Chiswick Pier onwards for a little bit, that's the bit where it's quiet.
Yeah.
You don't really hear much. It's the boat next to you, and the guys in your crew. That's pretty much it. But as you start to approach Barnes, the noise comes back in, the people come back in, and you can the adrenaline starts to rise again as you can taste getting closer and closer to the finish.
And that adrenaline will certainly be surging through this Goldie crew. You just feel like the pendulum of momentum has just swung in the direction of Goldie over the past few hundred meters in this race. That advantage, that opportunity that this ISIS crew had to stretch out in front of Goldie whilst they had the Hammersmith bend has now run out. The next bend that we're going to be having is entirely in the favour of Goldie, who are stretching out to what looks to be about a half a length's lead as we approach Barnes Bridge. And for Goldie, that's got to feel so good for them, Josh.
Yeah, definitely, because there's some brilliant statistic on the number of crews who have rowed back through to win from being behind at Barnes, and it's a very small percentage. I think it's less than 30% of crews that are behind at Barnes then go on to win. So you know that if you're up coming under this bridge that we can see on our screen here, you know that you're in with a very good shot of winning.
I think ISIS is holding on fantastically though. They're still in the boat, and yeah, you're coming into the last 1.25k. You're going to want to start sprinting, and you've always got something left in the last k, especially when the race is this close and about to make Burris history.
Yeah, when a race is as close like this, you can always find another gear. You can see a couple of heads in the ISIS boat, the stroke man Jan Ole Ernst. Couple of heads looking around just to see where the Goldie crew are, but it's very much not over yet. Sort of three minutes to the finish now, and they will be giving absolutely everything to stay in touch.
Those are nervous looks there, just like you said, Josh, from Jan Ole Ernst, the stroke man of this ISIS crew. He has done all he possibly can. The 24-year-old German who's stepped up, and he's stroked this boat admirably over the past nearly 6 kilometres so far of this race, but he's got to dig in, get his crew to find just that little bit extra, because we're into the dying stages of the 58th running of the ISIS Goldie Reserve race. But we're not done yet. Ollie Boyne is trying to send those puddles, those dirty water puddles, down to the ISIS crew, ensuring they cannot get back into it. But Claire Harvey's ensuring that they stay apart, because there's still that little bit of overlap, Josh. Yeah,
it does look as though there's quite a bit of overlap. It looks as though perhaps the bowside order of Oxford were nearly touching the stern canvas of Cambridge at one point there, whilst they were being warned.
Again, Cambridge being warned, and ISIS really going to try to hit the bump, as you explained earlier.
Yeah.
Maybe get the other crew disqualified, but looks like they've moved apart again.
Yeah, they certainly have, and we're coming into the final, less than 1,000 metres or so at this stage of the ISIS Goldie race. And we talked about dynasties, we talked about periods of huge success when we were covering the Osiris Blondie race, and since 2008 it has been ISIS who have been so successful. 14 wins that they've clocked up since 2008 in this event. So Cambridge have barely come close to this period of the sustained legacy and dominance of ISIS, but the script is being flipped today. It is Goldie out in front in that distinctive gold, yellow, mustard kit, whatever you want to call it, and they are Goldie. There you go. And they have just turned the screw ever so slightly over this ISIS crew in the past couple of 100 metres. And at this stage, Ollie Boyne, he's still trying to work that gamesmanship. He's still trying to send those puddles down towards his opponents from ISIS, ensuring that he has absolutely closed the door on them and there is no way back in.
We are coming into the last 45, 50 seconds of this race here, and it looks as though Goldie are just over a length up, and so it's going to be very hard and barring some miracle, I think, now for ISIS to be able to come back into this race in the very last, in the sort of closing stages.
Yes, we're into the last couple of 100 metres of the 58th running of the ISIS Goldie Reserve Race. It's the race that Goldie leads 32 races to 25, and it looks like they're going to notch up another win today here against their opponents from Oxford University. It's been a cracking race from start to finish. We've had the lead changing throughout, but it is the men of Cambridge University who have dug in when it mattered most through the middle of that race. They didn't let Oxford get out to any sort of advantage early on, and they pressured them. They pressed them so hard, and there we see Cambridge University, this Goldie crew, victorious in the 2023 running of the reserve races. Dejection for Oxford University. It's back to the books for next year.
Fantastic season for Cambridge so far, and that must be a really, really great feeling for Ollie setting the standard here for the men's race.